All right, welcome to TGF Postfight. This is the Diego Pacheco, Immanuwel Aleem post-fight show, and we're going to fire it up here. I am Jason Langendorf, the Good Fights editor, and I am about to be joined by El Pollo Loco, our Australian correspondent, Anthony Cox. He's going to join us tonight. Already got some folks lining up. Here's Devante. We're hoping also to get Lily Ulloa in here. Lily is at the War Grounds right now. She's going to try and chase down a couple of interviews. She's already gotten some good ones tonight. We'll share those soon enough on the Substack. But tonight, for the next 30, 45 minutes or so, Anthony and I are going to kind of run down the fights. We're going to wait to see if Lily pops in, hopefully with a couple more interviews, but maybe she'll be able to join us as well for some of the commentary and analysis. But we're going to take some of your questions as well, and we'll give you some shout outs if you have some interesting observations. But it was a good night at the fights tonight. We started out with probably the fight of the night, to be honest with you. It was at least the fight of the night for the DAZN broadcast. It was Bruno Rios against Saul Sanchez. And Rios was kind of the green, he's a good amateur, but just kind of new to the pros, and Sanchez is the vet. A lot of folks had kind of favored Sanchez. Great fight, really good fight. Fun, entertaining, but also back and forth. We saw a lot of good stuff from both guys. It was kind of, Rios is from LA, Sanchez is from Encino, but it felt like kind of an old school Mexico versus Mexico. You give one shot to take a shot. Both guys were kind of squaring up, and hold on, we're going to see if we can get Anthony in here. There we go. And a lot of good action, a lot of good body shots, changing levels. We had the knockdown in the second round. Rios went down. It was kind of a shocker in the second round. Hey, Anthony. How are you?
Good, thank you, Jason. Yourself?
I'm good. Are you able to flip yourself 90 degrees?
I reckon I can do that. How about that?
There we go. Nice. What time you got right now in Australia?
What is it? About 2:30, I think. Yeah,
Okay.
about 2:30 in the afternoon on a Sunday afternoon. So.
Okay, so you still got a lot of your day left. It feels like 2:30 here, but the other 2:30, I'm getting a little sleepy myself. But
gotcha.
I'm glad you're able to join us. We're just starting with the first fight, Bruno Rios against Saul Sanchez. I just mentioned that I felt like it was the fight of the night. A fun watch, but also super competitive. We got a knockdown of Rios in the second round, and that fourth round. I don't like to throw around a lot of the round of the year, KO of the year. Just it's hard to keep track of that stuff, but it was a hell of a round. A lot of action, a lot of again kind of back and forth. It was kind of the microcosm of the fight, but. Want to hear your impressions. What did you come away with from that fight?
I have to declare my hand on this one. I didn't tune in until about the sixth round.
Okay.
I was running late on that one, and I went. Even then, I know I've missed out on some good action because I could see how good the fight was from that moment onwards. So I'm not going to sit here and bullshit and say, this is what I thought of the first half of the fight. I wasn't there to see it, but I was certainly aware of the second round knockdown. Saul Sanchez, I didn't really know much about him until he fought Jason Maloney.
Okay.
in Canada, and I did a bit of research on him going into that fight. He really impressed me in that fight, but his form's been a little bit patchy since. But I know he comes to fight, so yeah. Look, I love the second half of the fight, and I've got to go back and watch the first half there to really put the whole thing in context there. But no, it was certainly a war down the stretch, and one that I thought was a real good way to kick off the card.
Yeah, and I thought Rios seemed to get better from, with each successive round. He sort of seemed to learn in real time. I mean, the interesting thing to me was, here's a guy who he's 20 years old. He's 9-0 now. Bantamweight, these guys, of course they're busier than the bigger guys, but before tonight, his previous fight, he'd fought in a 6-rounder. Before that, it was all 4-rounders. So he went 10 rounds today with a contender, a veteran contender. And they're out there in the late afternoon, early evening Southern California sun. It's an outdoor arena. It was blazing out there, and
yeah,
kid went 10 rounds, looked great. Didn't seem any worse for the wear. That's a really good sign for his future.
And I was very impressed with that too, knowing the conditions out there as well. Then and having to fight in that horrible afternoon heat there. I thought that spoke volumes for the kid. Not just the step up in class, but the trying conditions as well. And I certainly one that I'm black booking him, and I want to see more of the kid.
So we'll move on to the second fight, featherweight bout, Albert Gonzalez against Aaron Almeida. Chop looked great. There wasn't a whole lot to the fight. Gonzalez got the second round KO. He kind of turned it up all at once. That first round was he seemed like he was just kind of poking and prodding. He was kind of biding his time, looking for a way to set up Alameda, and he sure enough he did. Moved to 18-0, 11 KOs. Had that great right hand to the body, and doing it in front of more or less his hometown fans against Alameda. His first KO loss. I mean, it's another important showing for a young guy on the way up.
Yeah, I thought there was a real feather in his cap to get that KO there. Again, how much you sort of read into it outside of the fact that it was certainly impressive, but there wasn't enough rounds to make more out of it than it should have been, if that makes sense. But yeah, certainly being able to gauge his opponent, to gauge Alameda, and go, it's stinking hot out here. I don't want to be out here all afternoon. I'm gonna put him to the sword early and hit the showers. I think that might have been part of the mentality too. But yeah, Chop didn't put a foot wrong, did everything right, and that's all you can expect of the kid.
Yeah, and we're joined by Lily Ulloa. How are you, Lily?
We're doing good. We're at the media room now, awaiting the fighters to come back. So I'll probably be on mute this whole time until it's time for the fighters to come, and then I'll put you guys on super low volume so I don't disturb everybody else. So I might not hear you guys what you guys say, if that's okay.
No
but
worries.
We're in the media room now, so I'm gonna just go on mute until I see a fighter.
Yeah, and when you want to just sort of give us a heads up, we'll keep our mouths shut and we'll just watch.
Awesome. I'll be on mute.
All right. As far as Chop goes, Anthony, is there anybody you'd like to see him in against for his next fight, or within the next couple of fights at least?
I'm the worst matchmaker in the world.
Well, he was talking about. I thought he mentioned. Oh shoot! Now it's escaping me as well. I thought he mentioned Shushu Carrington.
Yes, he did. Yes, yeah.
And I think that could be a little early for him against Shushu. Not saying that wouldn't be a good fight. Not saying he couldn't win that. but just knowing what we know about the way fighters get moved, seemed like that might be jumping the gun a tad, especially from. I mean, that's quite a leap from Aaron Alameda. So I would love to see that fight soon. It just might not be the next one.
Sure, and this is where I think it's a little bit harder to play fantasy matchmaker when you've got a kid who's gone from from that prospect to contender stage, but still need a little bit more seasoning, and I think that's the really difficult part of matching these kids is when they're much better than just being a prospect. They're getting into that, whether they're a legit contender or a fringe contender, but they're blitzing the competition they've had, but now every step up from there is kind of a big step up, and knowing just how far to push them. And I think that's a bit outside of my pay grade to start suggesting those things. But like you, I'd love to see the Carrington fight, but I think it might be a bit too early, and I don't think Chop Chop's handlers would be pushing for that one as quickly as he is.
Yeah, maybe not just yet. I mean, and we know how this goes. That's part of the game. You're calling guys out pretty much from the jump. So Lily had to back out. I'm going to re-invite her in. She'll be jumping in once the fighters arrive. She was not able to mute her phone, so Anthony and I were yammering on for the room. And Mark, I see you. I see your comment on Pacheco, and I'm gonna come back to that once we get to him. But we're gonna start with Andy Cruz. That was the third fight of the night on the broadcast. Cruz, there were a lot of questions about him coming off a loss. Here's a guy who was, brilliant amateur, storied amateur. Our Lucas Cattell had a really nice feature on him earlier this week. Was considered to come in and was supposedly ready to dominate the pros, and he was moved quickly, as I think it warranted. But all of a sudden there were questions. He was up against Abraham Montoya tonight. Pretty sturdy vet. Came in 24-7 and won. Had never been stopped. And Cruz took him down in 3 rounds. Looked pretty doggone good from start to finish. Had a knockdown at the bell at the end of the second round, and he just needed a little bit of time to clean it up in the third, and that was kind of all she wrote. Was there anything that you saw, Anthony, as far as Cruz? Did you see what you wanted to see out of him?
Actually, I did. I thought there was there's always question marks coming off a loss just in terms of how boxers respond mentally, and sort of what their attitude is coming into fights. It looked to me like Andy Cruz had probably learned a bit from that loss, to be honest. He was, I shouldn't say more polished, but because he's a very polished boxer, but he appeared more determined, if that makes sense. Very keen to finish the fight early and not let his man off the hook, and really make a statement to say, no, the last fight against Muratalla was an aberration. This is the real me. And again, even though he had such a lengthy amateur career, the pro game's a different game, and you're still learning on the job. So I give him all the respect in the world. I think he's still got a bright future in the pros. But sometimes, and obviously we used Lomachenko as an example, but sometimes it takes a little bit to adjust to the different style of the sport there. So I certainly haven't thrown the baby out with the bathwater on this one, and I think there's a bright future for Andy Cruz. And what will be interesting is if he does make it down to 126 pounds, which has been flagged, how he goes in that lighter weight class where he can maybe be a bit more of a weight bully, because he doesn't look like the biggest 130 pounder to me, and maybe get that little bit more advantage at the lighter weight class too.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Muratalla can fight. I know Devontae says he's given Andy a pass for a fight where he felt like the guy was nowhere near his level. I think Muratalla can fight, and I think when you're fighting him in your 7th pro fight,
That's a tough ask for anyone.
Well, and especially if you're going to have some off nights here or there, even if you're world-class fighter. And sometimes that's going to happen early in your career when maybe you haven't learned how to respond to those moments. Doesn't mean he can't be, potentially an all-time great.
And he certainly seems like a kid who is very much willing to learn from these experiences. So I don't think it's, I've got all this amateur experience and this is me, a finished product, and this is what you're going to get every time out. I think there's still that mindset that I can make adjustments and I'm going to have to learn as we go down this path. And I think he's got a very bright future in front of him, even though, like old Cubans, he's not the youngest bloke out there. But I still think there's plenty of big fights and plenty of big opportunities ahead for him.
Yeah, I think there's enough runway there for him. And Devontae asks, wasn't he set to fight Albert? I believe we're talking about Albert Bell, and that was the case. Bell got called up to fight Abdullah Mason, kind of pulled the plug on that fight. And my opinion,
I think it's going to be about 10 minutes, so you got me for a little bit.
Here we go.
Did talk about Diego's performance, chipped away, and finally got it done in the 12th round.
Yeah, really good, exciting. I mean, I thought the first 6 or 7 rounds was really a boxing masterclass. I mean, used the jab perfectly and just started saying to him on the inside, work on the inside. You're stronger than him. Bump him off and work the body. And when he started doing that, he was hurting him repeatedly. The most impressive thing is that he was always looking for the stoppage. When you're 10-9, 10-9, 10-9 every round, it's great in boxing, but let's be honest, how many fighters actually just coast the decision rather than took a few chances right in there and he could afford to do so. So I think the crowd loved it, and to get him out of there, especially after the guy was very, very tough, great fight with Lester Martinez, couldn't get him out of there. I thought it was a really big statement to get the stoppage.
What does that say that Diego was able to get him out of there? He said in the ring he feels he's better than Lester and Aleem put together. What does that say about where Diego's progress is and where he goes from here?
I think that, he's still going to get better and better. I think, don't forget, that was his first fight with Buddy McGirt. But because he made the decision to just pause the world title shot, you don't really get the grace of being allowed to look average again. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're dropping, he hasn't dropped down a level. He just stayed where he was. But you've got to look good if you do that, having turned down the world title shot. And that was a tough decision. I mean, I probably wouldn't have done it because I'm a bit more gung-ho. But it's very unusual that a fighter says, I need to work on a few things. Like, I need to bring in a new trainer. I'm going to get a lot better. And I thought tonight he showed that he was a lot better with Buddy McGirt. And again, that was the first fight. So we can say it now that there's a lot more improvements to come. And when he starts believing himself more, specifically on the inside, he's going to be a real problem because his long game is fantastic. It always has been. But he can really hurt people on the inside. And he did that tonight.
Does that show maturity in Diego Pacheco, making a move like that, considering some fighters will go all the way?
Yeah, because most people just, I say do as they're told, but like just say, what should I do, guys? So, well, we've had 25 fights. You've got to fight for the world title. Not, I've left my trainer, I haven't been performing great. That was a really mature decision. And actually, I think it will go to show to be the right decision.
Canelo Rick very well. Right now in the ring, somehow they mentioned Canelo. You want to put him in with Canelo before Munguia?
No, I think, look, really the aim is to come back here at this. By the way, I think this venue is one of the best venues in boxing, right? The problem you have is it's 90 degrees for most of the day. And you start the boxing at 2:30. It's hot. Like, everyone's up in the bar. No one really wants to sit outside in the blazing sun. Feels like you should really be starting boxing here at like 7 p.m. But, of course, with the time zones for broadcast, that's not possible. So, I think we come back here in November. We like the Resendez fight. We like Bruno Saras, who had a great fight with Jaime Munguia. But these are fights that, are before or instead of Jaime Munguia. If Jaime Munguia comes out and says, November, December, let's go, I think we've got a tough decision because really we made that decision to wait and work on ourselves. We'd probably like one more in November time. But if the Munguia fight came, maybe he jumps it. But, when I talk about Canelo Alvarez, I don't think Canelo Alvarez is looking at Diego Pacheco right now, but I know those guys consistently look at who are the options, right? And if he beats Billy, which I think is a very tough fight, who are the options? The options are Hamza Shirez, really. That's another fight that he could take. I'm obviously not going to fight Jaime Munguia. Diego Pacheco. He's 25 years old. He'll be 27-0 by then. Like I think Canelo would look at Diego as a good opponent for himself. You know, I think he knows it's a tough fight, but I think he'd think he'd win that fight, and he'd think he's a young Mexican American. It makes sense. So that's to come. That's 3-4 fights away for us. But I like what I see, and I like Diego Pacheco. I think he's a great kid. You know, he's a great family man. He's got a beautiful daughter. I mean, he really works tirelessly every single day. Doesn't go out. Doesn't mess around. He's just got to keep believing in himself, and I think Buddy McGirt will play a big part in that.
Eddie, what do you think Diego needs to do to move the needle as well, too? It's a stacked division, so I think there could be a lot of matchmaking done with that.
To move the needle, you need the appropriate fights, right? And he's never really had that breakout fight yet. What he's had is he's had some brilliant opponents, and he's had some brilliant sort of nurturing in the right direction, but he hasn't had the breakout night. You know, if you look at Boots is an example, but he did some big crowds before he fought Zayas. But Zayas was like his breakout fight to sort of, you always need those fights. That's why I feel like Munguia is that breakout fight for Diego Pacheco. But there are a few others. Like I feel like here, you know, we can do, you know, I think we did 4,000 for Selecki. I think we had 5,000 tonight, but it holds 9,000. Do you know what I mean? So it's quite a big place. But I feel like if you do Resendez, maybe Suraz, like then you can start creeping to 7 and 8. And then that place looks really, really good. Like I said, it's a great arena. He's from South Central. I think this is where he should be, you know. But he does need the breakout opponent to break out his profile, quite honestly.
Eddie, I have two questions for you. Right. Now that you saw, it's a little off topic. Now that you saw Dana and Oscar working together, is there a possibility?
Well, I mean, when you say Dana and Oscar working together, if you ask Dana the question, I don't think he's going to really say, yeah, me and Oscar De La Hoya are working together. I mean, that's the reality.
I mean, full promotion, sorry. I mean,
yeah, I mean, he was bullied into it, really. They had no choice, but they didn't. Do you think Dana White would have voluntarily said, let's do a co-promotion with Oscar De La Hoya? I mean, he can't stand him. But this is how boxing works. Sometimes you don't get, like in an ideal world, probably we wouldn't do co-promotions with anybody because you'd rather just do it on your own. But the boxing doesn't work like that. It's never worked like that. Also, you can't just say, we're not going to do any fights for the world championships, the governing bodies, because every fighter wants to fight for a world championship. And now they're finding they weren't going to work with any promoters. Well, they're doing a co-promotion straight away. I mean, it's a ring card to start with co-promoted by Oscar and Zuffa. Then they said they're not doing any world championship fights. In fact, Nick Khan stood on the stand to try and abolish the Muhammad Ali Act and belittled Maurizio Sulaiman, who, I'll say one thing really important. Whatever you think about Maurizio Sulaiman, let me tell you something now. He is boxing through and through, right? I know because I've lived the same life. I've been around boxing since I was 7 years old. So don't start thinking that I don't care about the sport. And Maurizio's the same. Maurizio's dad was so influential in the world of boxing. Maurizio's grown up in that household. Now, I don't agree with every decision Maurizio Sulaiman makes, but he's integral to boxing, and more so is the WBC World Championship. And these guys stood on a stand and tried to belittle that organisation and tell everybody they were crooked and they were disgraced fighters and blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? On September the 12th, Maurizio Sulaiman will be in the ring on their show. And they'll all have to be with him. And they'll all have to pay homage to the WBC Championship. Because you can't just get rid of these things. Boxing's full of fighters in and out of the ring. No one's going to lay down. Do you think Oscar De La Hoya was going to let Ryan Garcia just poodle on over to do a Zuffa show? No fucking chance. And look at DAZN. DAZN have nipped in. And the fight's on DAZN. 2 weeks ago, Dana White was telling everyone, what's DAZN? No one's watching DAZN. Now he's tweeting. Today, watch the fight live on DAZN. I mean, it's hilarious because they're control freaks and you can't control boxing.
Eddie, can I ask you what options does Boots have?
Well, Boots has every option in the world at the moment because I think he's established himself as the hot topic of boxing. So I think if you asked pretty much every fight fan, they'd be drawn between Virgil Ortiz and Sebastian Fundora. We had a call with Boots today. He won't mind me saying his absolute first choice is to fight Sebastian Fundora. He thinks that's a great fight. Fundora has the WBC World Championship, which Boots would love to win. Josh Kelly, our fighter, fights next week in Jeddah on the Anthony Joshua card, defending his world title. It's a tough fight. Virgil Ortiz, outstanding fighter. That for me is one of the best fights in boxing. You've only got to listen to me 6 months ago talking about that fight, pushing that fight, trying everything. That's a wonderful fight. But Virgil doesn't have anything that Boots wants other than a big fight and a good payday. He's not chasing paydays, he's chasing legacy. Yeah. But there's still a lot of people that want to watch that fight. So don't forget, we accepted that fight and signed for that fight. Boots had to take less money than Virgil Ortiz because they wouldn't take it unless he did. Boots had to be the B side. They said it has to be Ortiz against Boots. I said, why? No one's got a world championship. No, we're not taking the fight unless it is. Okay. They even asked him to cut his beard and not wear colourful gloves. All of the things that he agreed to do to have the opportunity to prove he was the best. And luckily, we got the Xander Zayas fight. And now he's a unified world champion and one of the biggest stars in the sport. So, again, it's not a case of we'll fight you. But as I said yesterday, today's price is not yesterday's price. Or is it yesterday's price is not today's price?
Yesterday's price, not today's price.
No, but I've switched it up. I think it's important. I want to give you original stuff. You know, I don't want this on the copy.
When are you gonna bring him back? The crowd loved it.
Leo Tank. Yeah, they do. Yeah, he's 19 years old. I mean, he's a lot of people are saying like he's the new Anthony Joshua coming from the UK. He's 19. He's 235 pounds at the moment. He's still got a lot of growing to do. I want to see him up around that 250 mark, but he's got all the fundamentals, right? He's very fast, got good footwork, good punch selection. And today was a great learning curve for him because it's a big thing. You know, coming over here to Los Angeles, he's never really been here properly before. And, like you said, he's a very nice young man. He's got a smile that lights up the room. He looks amazing. He's a great fighter. I think he's going to be a huge star. And more importantly, I think he will become world heavyweight champion. But we've got a 4 or 5 year project with him. And that will include fighting in America definitely once a year. So you'll be pleased with that.
Eddie, I couldn't help but notice sitting next to you tonight was UFC fighter Paulo Costa. And I was a bit shocked to see him all the way here in Carson, California. He's an athlete with a great personality. He's coming off a sensational win at light heavyweight over at the UFC. You have Ian Gary. You have Tom Aspinall. Is that someone that maybe the Matchroom Talent Agency is looking to sign?
Yeah, you know what? Since we signed Tom, we've probably had, at least a dozen UFC fighters reach out to us. And it's difficult because the Matchroom Talent Agency, we sign rugby players as well. We didn't launch to become an MMA management company. But clearly, it's a very interesting space, and obviously, in the narrative of what's happening, with the other fella, it's really interesting for us, and it gives me the opportunity to learn the industry, understand the sport before we inevitably move into that space. But I'm not going to move into MMA knowing nothing about it. I don't think that's right because it's just I've got to stop having pops, and a lot of my pops are sarcastic, but they get really. We're supposed to be in these peace talks, right? And it's it does just, I don't want to start upsetting people again. But when you don't know anything about the sport, it really shows when you're talking, right? When you're looking at notes and you're kind of reading off stuff. Whereas when you know something, you don't need notes. You speak from the heart, you speak from the mind, like Dana White does when he talks about UFC. He lives and breathes it. He doesn't need, when he's got his stuff up there, he knows every guy, what they did in the last fight, and then all of a sudden you go into another word. That's what I said to Paolo. You're never going to see me screaming and shouting at your fights, telling you to lock the guy's arm up. I don't really know anything about it. I know about contracts, I know about promotion, I know about marketing, and I know how to move athletes in the right direction. He was one of the 12, 10, whatever, who reached out to me. And he contacted me recently, and he actually reached out to Ariel Hawani to ask for my number. And he called me, and he said, I want your help. I've seen what you've been doing with Aspinall, seen what you've been doing with Ian Gary. I've seen what you've been saying about us, and I want you to represent me. And I was like, again, like I could sign 12 UFC fighters tomorrow and just have the biggest management company in MMA, and really, but that's not really a direction that we necessarily want to go in. Anyway, after I spoke with him, I really thought, firstly, I started to understand and speak to other people about how big this guy is, how good this guy is. And I liked him. And, you know, he has one fight left on his UFC contract, and it's a really interesting time in his career. And, you know, he made it clear that he wants me to be his guy and to represent him. And I think there's every chance I'm going to. We had a great meeting tonight. He flew here tonight to see me. Loved the night, loved the experience. He's a very, very good stand-up individual who is in a really interesting contractual position. So, yeah, I think there's every chance you'll see the collab with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom and Paulo Costa.
Eddie, Bam fought a month ago. Any updates on what's next for Bam?
Yeah, so Bam's going to fight in November, December, I think, and he'll most likely unify again. I think Chispa Medina is a good option. I think it's a great fight. We haven't heard anything on the Inoue fight. Like, you know, I mean, everyone keeps talking about that fight. We've publicly stated we're interested in that fight. We want that fight, but we haven't really heard anything. So the Zone have asked us to start negotiations for that fight. They're very interested in that fight worldwide, particularly in Japan. But it depends when that takes place. And obviously, if it's going to happen in January time, we might go a little bit earlier. But I think Robert Garcia's preference is to unify again at 118 pounds, unless the fight becomes a real possibility. But at the moment, we haven't really heard anything from Inoue's team or Turkel Sheikh, other than everybody loves the fight. But, you know, I guess with the Fury AJ stuff as well, kind of like that's the big one after Fury AJ. But, you know, you'll probably see Bam November, December unifying again at 118 pounds.
And one more on Bivol. I mean, the July 26th deadline is coming up for the Callum Smith fight. There was a report that obviously Bivol is being offered a lot of money and not taking the better BF fight.
Yeah, that's all. None of that is true. You know, firstly, I heard reports that Dimitri Bivol had been offered 40 million to fight Beterbiev. If those people are watching right now, call me and make that offer, and he will accept it immediately. Right? Okay.
Eddie, quickly, Andy Cruz. Sorry, Andy Cruz is real quick.
Quickly on that. So what Vadim and Dimitri Bivol have told me is, please begin negotiations with whether it's Umar Kremlev, whether it's RCC. We're ready to make that fight. That's the fight he wants. He's due to fight Callum Smith. I think it's unlikely he'll defend against Callum Smith. I think Callum Smith will fight Joshua Buatsi for the vacant title. But Bivol is ready to make the Beterbiev free fight. And on that note, we'll bring in the champ after another great performance.
Thank you guys all for being here. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, well, Diego, first of all, you went on a great streak of some good unanimous decision wins, but I know a lot of people were talking about bringing that knockout back into play. And just like they said in the ring, the last knockout that you had was in this very arena, and it was that picture-perfect body shot. And here tonight, you dug through and got the stoppage that 11th round. How rewarding is that for that to happen here in that arena, not just where you had your last knockout, but somewhere you used to come as a fan?
Yes, sir. No, man, it's amazing. Honestly, like I said, it's a dream come true for me to be fighting here at the War Grounds, man. I want to thank Matchroom, Eddie Hearn, my management team, everyone who's made this possible. And of course, my hard work. You know, I feel like, that's the key to me being here is my hard work that I put in and day out, my dedication. And like I said, man, I'm here to take over, and this is only the beginning.
Yeah. Your performance tonight, was this something you expected? Is this the statement you wanted to make tonight, coming back home with the new team back in LA?
Definitely. You know, I want to give a big shout out to my team, Buddy McGurk, Courage, Coach Omar, Dario Camacho, Kadosh, everyone who's been a part of this camp, man. It was a great training camp, and this was a reward today.
How do you just yourself, just you're working with I'm sorry, blank your trainer,
Buddy.
I'm sorry. Just what was it something that you felt like you just worked more on the jab or the body? It's a different variation. Just what did you really bring to the table that really allowed you to excel tonight?
I just think, overall, I can't really say one or two things. I feel like it was just an overall, change in my performance, my mentality, just coming into the fight, I felt very confident in my team, the work we put in. And, I feel like this training camp had a lot of purpose, and we came out here and took care of business.
I know it's awfully early, but did you have a chance to debrief at all with Buddy after the fight? Between now and walking out here?
We talked a little bit right now, but Vada is on me about doing all these drug tests and stuff, so I really didn't get a chance to. But I'll see him right now in the hotel, and we'll talk for sure.
Diego, congratulations, man! Put on the show for the hometown crowd. Talk about the fight itself. It seemed like you were kind of chipping away, and once the body shots started accumulating, his head started popping back like a Pez dispenser. Just talk about just kind of the breakdown of knocking him out.
Yeah, man, he took a lot of great shots to the head, and I knew that body was going to be the key, So once I went down to the body, it opened everything else up, So yeah, I feel like my team, I listened to them, I trust them every round, every break, every instruction they gave me. We went in and did what we have to do.
What kind of statement did you make? The fact that Lester Martinez wasn't able to KO him, you did. What kind of statement do you think that made to him in the division?
I don't know, man. I just went in there and did what I do. I feel like me and Lester are two completely different fighters, and I showed that today, and I just want to keep going, and Matchroom, Cheer Sports, gave me the best fights possible.
During the fight, did you wonder how many more body shots that man was going to be able to take? I mean, that was the chatter online from the fans, just wondering when was he going to go.
Honestly, I had a couple moments in there where I feel like I could have done things a little differently, So I just want to go back home, see the tape, and make adjustments, and come back better.
Have you ever had anybody be that tough against that level of body punching you were doing?
At this level, I feel like everyone is tough, and even when guys aren't going down, you just got to be consistent and stick to the game plan, and that's what we did.
Diego, most of your fights are out of town. They're not in LA. This is your fourth fight in LA. How do you feel to be home, seeing fans, family, just being inside?
It feels great, man. This is what I dreamt of, fighting here in my hometown. I want to give a big shout out again to Matchroom DAZN for making this possible. You guys are seeing a kid from South Central live his dreams, and, I want to bring a world title to LA sooner than later for sure.
Diego, congrats on your 26th victory.
En español, ganaste la pelea hoy por knockout y ahora ya se menciona el nombre de Canelo, posiblemente, ya sé que ya habíamos dicho Jaime Munguía, pero Eddie Hearn dice que tal vez hasta Canelo cae.
No, pues sí, la verdad, pues eso suena muy bien para mí. Yo creo que, hay niveles y pues vamos subiendo poco a poco y primero Dios, vamos a llegar a esas peleas.
¿Qué mensaje le tienes a Canelo o a Munguía que te den esa oportunidad, sabiendo la trayectoria que Canelo ha sido desde que inició su carrera y ahorita que Jaime Munguía quiere corona campeón otra vez?
Pues mi respeto para esos viejones. Canelo, pues yo lo he mirado desde niño y lo admiro mucho. La vez que me invitó a su campamento, esperé con él, mucho respeto y pues aquí vengo yo con todo, ¿verdad? Vengo también para hacer mi historia y pues cuando me den la oportunidad vamos a estar listos. Primero Jaime Munguía y primero Dios todo salga bien, pues también el Canelo.
Entonces ese sería el proyecto perfecto. Primero Munguía y luego Saúl.
Yo pienso que sí, pues sí, como le dije, hay niveles y pues poco a poco vamos a llegar. Tengo 25 años ahorita, siento que tengo tiempo para pelear con todos ellos y no nomás Canelo y Munguía, con Billy, Shiraz, todos los demás también.
Y para la gente mexicana, ¿qué mensaje le tienes?
No,
¿Qué te
pues,
está apoyando ahí?
sí, no, toda la gente que está hoy aquí, toda mi raza mexicana, todos los latinos, muchas gracias por el apoyo, se les agradezco mucho de corazón y esto es solo el principio.
Diego, Eddie's talked about how you turned down a title shot. You wanted a couple more fights. How many more fights until your acceptance? I don't know, but you gave him a look. How many more fights until we?
What I actually said was he made a very sensible, mature decision.
Right. Maybe I made it sound
you
worse.
did. Yeah, you did the normal clickbait kind of headlines. What I said was he made a very sensible, mature decision where he felt like he was still changing his training team and felt that when he fights for the World Championship, he's got to be 100% ready. And he didn't feel like he was. So, which is, I mean, it's more than fish. I mean, it's sensible,
100%.
right? And it's very unusual for a fighter to be that smart. And I think tonight it really showed that we're heading in the right direction. So what I also said was, if the World Championship shot comes in November, it's probably not what was part of the plan, having worked on this kind of, not even a rebuild, but just a refresh, if you like, an improvement. But if the Munguia fight came in November, Diego's got another decision to make as an individual, and with Buddy and with Sheer Sports and everybody. You know, like I said, I do feel like that fight in November is more of a Resendez, Saras, those kind of guys, because he still needs those bigger names to break out, to get those guys' attention. Like we talked about Munguia and Canelo, they're looking at Pacheco going, okay, yeah, one big win, and I think it makes sense. And I think that's what we need. You know, your question as well, like, how do you go to the next level to turn 5,000 into 8,000? And that is a Resendez or a Saras or like those kind of more, you know, bigger names. So I think that's next. But if Jaime Munguia phoned up tomorrow and said, all right, then let's do it in Los Angeles, he would have a tough decision. And that's a different kind of fight to Shiraz. Like, Shiraz is a brilliant fight and a good fight and a great fight stylistically for both those guys. It's a great fight. But Munguia is more like a bit more of a childhood dream for Diego Pacheco, and a fight that the city would remember for a long time.
Diego Resendez is from, Manny's camp, which you are always at sparring as well. Have you sparred him before, and how would that fight go? Do you think? Yes, have you sparred him before, or is that so? And how do you think that fight would go, given that he is a former world champ but recently lost?
Man, he's a great fighter, man. We've had a lot of great sparring sessions. You know, but you know, I feel like I am the better fighter, and I think he knows that too. And of course, I would love a fight with him, with all the top names, and you know, going back on the rebuilding and getting my new team together. You know, I was also moving from Washington back to California, settling back in here home, and you know, this is where I want to be, and I have a great team with me now, and I'm just ready to go, ready to take on all the big fights.
Diego, there's a lot of scenarios being thrown around. How about a scenario if you're offered a fight, let's say Jaime Munguia on the Canelo undercard in October in the Mexico versus the world? Is that something that you would take, or do you still want someone like Surace or Resendez?
Honestly, for me, I would love to take that fight next. You know, I feel like I'm ready. I feel like I worked my ass off and I put the work in. I dedicated my whole life to this since I was 10 years old. And, you know, I always said I wanted to become a world champion around 24, 25. So, you know, right now is the time for sure.
Last question, guys.
What's go home today? What's the celebration dinner? You're back in LA. Back home. What are you eating?
Shit, honestly, probably some tacos. Tacos for sure. Asada y del pastor. And con queso for sure. Aguacate, all the good stuff. You know, being back, man, in Washington, they have none of that. So now that I'm back here in LA, I've been enjoying that for sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Congratulations.
Thank you, dude. Thank you. That was.
Thank you, Lily. Is your arm tired?
What did y'all think? Thoughts, prayers?
That was a long one. Are you? Is your arm tired at this point?
Not to brag, but I think I'm good.
You're good.
He's got an eye. He's got a
Gail knows.
Hey,
I
Gail.
got it. I think I got it. That's why I train, just so I can hold the phone.
I hear you. Well,
Yeah.
steady hand. It was great to get both of those. Hi, Gail.
Hey there. What did you think, Gail? Of the Diego Pacheco, what do you think? Did he answer any questions? Did he leave more questions than he answered?
Diego was winning, handily. I mean, we could all see the, beatdown occurring. He had to have that stoppage. He had to have that stoppage. One more decision, even a lopsided decision, was not going to move the needle for him. Now, calling out Munguia, I mean, the crowd had a massive positive reaction. That name came up, and there was no hesitation. It's like, yes, I think that's a rather bold statement. Here, Eddie, as you heard, made it pretty clear that that's probably not the next fight.
I may be biased, but I want the Resendez fight. I may be biased, but I do want that because also it's local. Like Resendez, before he was on all those cards, he's a local guy too from LA. Tried my Manny Robles. So I feel like that also builds a little like, ooh, So, but I'm also from Nayarit, and I want my guy to keep getting paydays. So, I'm just rooting for him, to be honest.
That's the fight to be made because that's a fight that will sell. I was a little disappointed in the crowd tonight. It
was so hot,
but it was.
I came late because I didn't want to be in the sun. Like I was in my room with the AC. I live 15 minutes away, and I was like, it was so hot. And we saw Eddie say that. We saw Eddie say it's 90 degrees, and we're in the sun. So
now hold on though.
For a major fight with another local fighter with another local fan base, that's the way to go because they need to put more butts in the seats for that next fight. And I do think Resendez is the right move. Although Eddie did keep throwing out the caveat, but if we get offered the Mejia fight, we're gonna have a tough decision. I don't think that we're gonna see that.
No, I don't think so either. I think Pacheco's smarter than that, and so is Eddie.
I think Mejia is smarter than that. I don't think there's enough in it for Mejia.
Yeah. Not with those long arms.
He has had a nice bounce back now, having that belt in his hand. He doesn't want to let it go anytime soon. He's not going to take a fight with a young buck like this.
And that is a word from the best, one of the best in the game, but the best in women's communications, everything. That's my hero right here.
Very kind, thank you. Big fan of the good fight.
Thank you, Gail. Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
So I have to push back on something though. I think our guy Anthony here, he's probably thinking like 90 degrees. What's 90 degrees? I'm not. Come on, that's like a
in California, like
day for
to us, this is hell. Like we're so used to a nice 75 degrees, and I live in Long Beach. It's like I'm like, oh, it's never like today. Like it was almost unbearable. To me, it made me not want to come earlier. So I can understand why the fans. And I know it looked empty on the TV and on the screen, but that's because all of them. If you've been to the war grounds, everybody hangs around at the top because they're just drinking and like looking at the fights from up there. Because every seat is a good seat, but most people are up there drinking. So like it's when it's hot like that, most people stay up there.
Yeah. No, that makes
I can understand why they do. I can understand why they do.
Yeah, I mean,
they're kicking us out.
It's still there. It sounded well attended in the background, and I think especially for the main event, it didn't feel. There's some fights that feel a little empty, that feel a little bit like the crowd's not really engaged, and that didn't seem to be the case tonight.
Yeah, they're kicking us out. So I will be ending the chat because I don't know how good the service will be. Like in the following, but I'll probably remain in the chat, like messaging, like I did when they asked that UFC question that I could not give 2 Fs about. I'm like, I love this for you, and like I know you want to ask things like in like a way that sounds like you're on broadcast, but you're not on broadcast right now. Like, just please ask. And then I'm like, oh, like we do not need a UFC promotion. Maybe I'm just a hater though. So let me get off. And I'll see you guys later after I figure out where I'm getting out of.
Well, thank you for joining us, Lily. I appreciate you bringing all these cool interviews to us, and hopefully Lily will come back, and if not on camera, she will be here in spirit and in chat. Let me go back to a couple of quick things here. First of all, the always engaging Eddie Hearn. Mark asks, anyone else think Eddie Hearn belongs in a Guy Ritchie movie? And the correct answer to that, Mark, is absolutely. I want to see a Snatch sequel with Eddie.
I actually thought he came out of a one of those movies. I thought he was just kind of dropped into real life straight out of Central Casting.
Yeah. Who was it? Somebody called him a world-class bullshitter, but in a good ways. Yeah. Oh, Mark. It was Mark again. I love Eddie Hearn because he's the best bullshitter in the sport today. And I would agree in the sense that there are certain guys where when they're conning you, when they're selling you. Eddie's hard to tell. He has some sincere beliefs, but it's kind of hard to separate those sometimes from the salesmanship. So, I have to agree with you there. Let's see. What about Lester Martinez? His last fight brought out a decent crowd in the area. Yeah, I'm not sure where you're going with that one, Mark, but anyhow, we haven't gotten to the Pacheco Aleem fight, so let's get there. So Pacheco, 25 years old, now 26-0, 19 KOs. He had those 3 decisions in a row and didn't look great last time out. Had some doubts about him, and all of a sudden, I mean, in one fight, he really spun things around. Aleem hasn't really fought anybody of great significance, but 22 came in at 22-4-3. Had been in with some guys, clearly tough. I mean, Pacheco, I don't think you could say made easy work of him, but Pacheco dominated the fight. At the same time, it took him all of 11 rounds to get him out of there. And Aleem took a beating. You could see Ray Corona was looking for the last probably 3 rounds just for any excuse to sort of cut it short. And Aleem, it seemed like he just came up with that one punch to sort of reset the clock each time. And it may have only been one, but yeah, I mean, he hung in there. But at the same time, Pacheco, I thought, looked great. He got the stoppage. He kind of did everything he needed to in this fight. What did you think? What was your take, Anthony?
I think it was clearly the best we've seen Pacheco look. But I wouldn't say I've had reservations about him in the past, but you could see the talent was there, but there was, to me, there was nothing incredibly standoutish about Pacheco. He could box long, he can bang a little bit. I don't think he was a puncher that Matchroom tried to make him out to be, by a long shot. And I really think it probably just came down to having all the physical tools and solid fundamentals, but trying to find his own identity as a fighter. And I think we saw that tonight. I can do some of this, I can do some of that, I can do some of that, but who am I as a fighter? What is the best version of me that I can be? And I really thought he showed that tonight. Obviously, Buddy McGirt has got wonderful tools to work with, and he's a great man for just sharpening up the edges there. And I thought that jab from Pacheco was absolutely brilliant. So much variety in that jab. It's such a basic tool, but it's only as good as how you use it. The change-ups of speed, the tap, tap, bang, up and down, just the little angle changes there. And that really set up everything for him. I was pleasantly surprised because I've really not been sure if Pacheco would just be one of these kind of good guys who can't really push through to the top level. And he showed me tonight that potentially he can. So I was really pleased with that performance.
Yeah, I think kind of the key word is sharp. He just looked really sharp. There seemed to be an organizing principle to what he was doing, whereas recently it felt like you said there were tools there, and he was pretty good at a lot of things, but he wasn't able to put it together, and that changed it completely tonight. 180 degrees, locked everything in. And, we heard on the broadcast over and over kind of Buddy McGirt is the jab whisperer. But, when you're 6'4", 79-inch reach, super middleweight, that's a potent weapon right there. And as you said, the variety in it, I thought, really made a difference. And he was relentless with it. He just kept using it to, especially the first probably 6 rounds, he kept using it to tap, 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 gradually do some damage, but then also set Aleem up for a lot of the body work that slowly chipped away. I mean, by that 7th round, Pacheco seemed to get a little bored, and think it was Sergio Mora made a comment on the broadcast that he thought he should be fighting inside, and that's where he was doing the most damage. And I don't know that I agree with that. I think, like I said, maybe Pacheco got bored. Maybe he thought, this is my chance after piling up all these rounds, and Aleem looks like he's slowing down. Now I'm going to be aggressive. Now I'm going to change things up. But he also took almost all the damage from the fight that he absorbed was on the inside.
Yep.
I don't know that he's going to want to take that same tack against certain other fighters. I don't know how well that would go against Canelo. I don't even know how well that would go against Munguia. Immanuwel Aleem is neither of those fighters. Pacheco did a really good job of taking a guy who I think was set up to be beaten, and looked great. I mean, to his credit, he really looked good. Did exactly what he needed to do. Plus, he got some rounds. He got some rounds in with McGirt, I think, which is important. So I think it was a big win for him. It was in front of his hometown fans. Kind of everything went Pacheco's way tonight. I don't know. Do you have thoughts about, we talked a little bit about, we heard from Gale, we heard from others, we heard from Hearn. Is he ready for Munguia? Let's put Canelo on the back burner for the moment, but is he ready for Munguia? Do we need Resendez? Do we need somebody else first?
I think in an ideal world, and as Lily rightly pointed out, Resendez is a perfect step up, local fight, help build his brand. I think that'd be the ideal fight, and then look at a Munguia fight either straight after that or one fight in between. I'm probably, I quite like the Munguia fight, but I'd prefer one or two fights in between. I don't think Munguia is a long way down the track. Sort of the 4 or 5 fights or whatever Eddie was saying. I think it's, in terms of skill versus skill, I think it's a lot closer than that. But I certainly do think off the back of this fight, and again, as you rightly said, having that full camp with Buddy McGirt and almost a full 12-round fight there, with him under his belt there, he's only going to benefit him. To my mind, I'd say build off that, build the brand locally. Go out there and if you can turn in another performance like you've just done today, that's only going to elevate your brand further, and sort of off you go from there. I've been pleasantly surprised with that change in just one camp with Buddy McGirt. We all know how good of a trainer Buddy is, but it's rare that you see those sort of improvements in just one camp, which makes me very bullish about where Pacheco can go from here.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. I mean, how many times have we seen fighters change trainers and you just can't change your stripes? Particularly, Pacheco's is 26 fights in now. You've got a lot of habits. You've got a lot of, you maybe get a little bit hard-headed about, what you think the right way forward is, the kind of fighter you are. And he gave a lot of credit to McGirt and the rest of the team. Talked a lot about just sort of following the plan. And I think that was the way to go. And I think that's the way forward. I think it'll be interesting. The War Grounds is such a great venue. And I think there's sort of a natural progression to, if they can get Resendez there in November, you can probably sell that place out. It gets packed to the gills on a cooler night. You've got 2 guys with all kinds of local ties. If it's Munguia, it's probably the same type of atmosphere. The same, stakes are higher, but also the risks a little bit higher for Pacheco, maybe a lot higher. I think it makes sense. He's 25. It makes sense for them to to squeeze in at least another fight, maybe 2, before stepping up to Munguia. A lot of it's going to be up to Munguia himself and his people. So I think in any case, Pacheco has kind of quelled the doubts and has set himself up for a lot bigger business going forward.
And just on that too, I mean, it's easy to sound hypercritical when we say, okay, we silence the critics and things like that, but it's because the promoters oversell the fighters to us in the first place, saying that this kid's going to be the next superstar. He's going to be a world champion, a multi-weight world champion, multiple weight divisions, whatever. So the expectations are set up there. It's not so much that we're sitting there going, the kid's no good. It's the promoters and the managers and the media people, the PR team are all telling us just, this is the kid to watch. And then sometimes you see him and you go, oh, that was a little bit less than what I was, a little bit underwhelming, a little bit less than what I was expecting. But in saying that, I think Pacheco's responded well to that pressure. Obviously still keen to learn, has made changes to his team to try and continue improving his craft, and I couldn't have been happier with his performance today and just where the kid's going and what his trajectory looks like from here on out.
Yeah, and to go back to the promotional aspect of it, I thought it was pretty funny to hear Eddie Hearn chastise the reporter for that's not what I said. You're trying to go for that clickbaity question. It's like, man, your whole job is clickbait. What are you doing? You're out here selling headlines. That's your whole game, man. Like game recognized game, I guess. But anyway, no, I think this was a kind of an easy one to assess. I think probably everybody agrees Pacheco's heading in the right direction. Look great. Off to the next. Anything else that you either heard from Hearn tonight? Anything else you saw on the broadcast? Anything interesting? Anything you got to get off your chest before we wrap it up?
No, look, I can't say too much about Eddie other than Eddie's always Eddie. You'd if I was going to be sold a used car that turned out to be a lemon, I'd like to be sold it to me by Eddie. Like you kind of go, oh, Eddie, you bloody got me, you
away
bastard.
with a smile on your face, at least, right?
Exactly. Oh, mate, you got me, you bastard. He's a lovable rogue to me.
Yeah.
Look, my big takeaway is this is I'm finally excited about Diego Pacheco. What he showed me tonight and the potential down the road, I'm going. Yet now you've sold me on this idea. He's obviously a lovely kid and a good boxer and everything else, and I watch as many fights as I can. But this performance tonight got sort of buy-in from me that I'm kind of invested in his career. Now I want to see where he goes from here, which wasn't there in the past.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's there. It is. It's kind of goosed his career. Brought some attention to him at a time when, if we'd seen another sort of so-so decision, I think a lot of people he would have kind of fallen off the radar for a lot of folks. And again, to his credit, he really seemed to be prioritizing that. As patient as he was, as much as he set things up early in the fight, by the second half of the fight, he seemed to be going for it. And again, even though, I don't know if you could call it a critique, but I think he took most of his punishment when he went inside against Aleem. But he certainly did his share of damage. And I think if he was going to do that, he waited until kind of the appropriate time when he'd already kind of broken him down. Aleem, especially by the 10th, there wasn't much left. He was not fighting back. He was mouth wide open, unsteady on his feet. Didn't particularly look like he wanted to be there. And he hung in, but Pacheco hard to argue too much with his approach or with the results tonight.
Yeah. And just one another quick thing I'd like to say, Jason, is despite the fact that the fight went late, it wasn't like his previous performances that went the distance and that he just happened to get a knockout before the final bell. That was a really different performance through those rounds in terms of skill and application and the way he broke his bloke down. He didn't just sort of labor through into the later rounds. He was thinking in there. He was setting up things. He was trying different things, and pretty much everything he was trying was working. He kept his opponent guessing the whole way through. So I think that you could see the sort of thought process there in that fight, whereas I think some of those other, the past 3 fights where he's just sort of slogged away. Yeah, he's winning the rounds, but they haven't been impressive rounds. I think there was a big difference in the fight itself in that regard.
Yeah, I go back to kind of an organizing principle. It really seemed like there was a plan there. He executed it. He was confident in it. And those things I don't think showed as much in his recent fights. So I think that's all reason for enthusiasm for Pacheco's career moving forward. Real quickly, just to answer Devontae, he asked, where's Lucas at? Lukey is, I believe, he might still be in the air right now, but he's coming back from South Carolina. He'd been on a well-deserved golf vacation. I'm very jealous. But we got to spend the night with Anthony tonight, so happy for that. And I do appreciate you joining us, Anthony. We're up to over an hour now, so I think we'll shut it down. But you have a great rest of your night, and we will be back next week. We got a slew of fights next weekend. I believe we're going to try to do this Saturday. I don't think we can make time to do it Friday as well, but we'll try to kind of get to all the fights that we're able to. Obviously, there's some fights on Sunday as well. I don't think we'll want to wait till then, so we'll probably wind up doing this Saturday night. But stay tuned to the Substack. Stay tuned to our Twitter page, all the channels, just to see. We'll keep you updated. We'll let you know a lot of it. We're still figuring out our schedules and how best to do this for you, where we can rope in as many folks, but also, we're still doing this kind of by the seat of our pants and Gonzo style, and trying to get as many folks involved as we can. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you at the fights.